Oh, we all love our 5-inch Walthers. Of course, the Q5 match can't be beat. Interesting, unique slide serrations there. And we've got the limited edition Q5 that was available. And this guy is new, a little different, wouldn't you say? Probably because it's a 22. We'll be taking a look at the PPQ 5-inch 22 coming up next on GBGuns. Another Walther. This time we're going small caliber. As you may have noticed, 22 ammo is back, and that means that we can start enjoying guns like these again. So this is the PPQ M2 in 22, which I think is got a lot of potential to be very fun and probably a great trainer. Looking at the manual here, we have standard tricolor and images. Of course, we have that, and we get our obligatory statements from the Department of Justice, obligatory handgun lock, but at least Walther has a branded one. Here's the gun. We also get a tool, looks like a punch, and two different hex keys. One hex key, one round for punching probably the pins out. Wrench, and a spare fiber optic front sight, already complete. That's kind of nice. And our second magazine. Magazines are not numbered, but they are stainless steel with the thumb helper for loading. Let's get this out of the way and actually take a look at the reason why we're all here, the gun. So, of course, starting off with clear. Now we've got a chamber flag already in there, courtesy of Walther, in Walther blue with the scroll there. See how that slide feels. Very lightweight, a little heavier than some others, but still feels Walther. I love that texturing, classic texturing. Anyways, back to our normal format, right? We start off with the mag. Looks like this is more of a release than an ejection. A little bit of ejection. There we go. And of course, we already know that it's clear. Start off looking on the front end of the gun, the business end. All looks pretty much like a standard Walther Q5, except for that itty bitty barrel. Nice bright fiber optic front sight there. Lightning cuts in the top of the slide, along with these serrations to cut down on glare. We've got a stylized scroll and front serrations for press checking or racking. Really, the gun handles, appears, and feels very much like your standard PPQ M2 frame. Serrations on the front. Nice broad shielding for the magazine release underneath. And that texturing and those swells along the palm that work so well, at least with my hand. I mean, love it. The slide release is nice and long. You know, that's something that's really easy to activate, really easy to deactivate. My only complaint with them is I tend to do kind of a thumbs forward thing, and sometimes my thumb ends up resting on that, but it's really not a big deal for the type of shooting that I do if the slide goes closed on an empty magazine. Do need to just practice doing more like that, leaving a gap there. So as you can see, with my large hands, finger rests just about appropriately on the trigger there. So it's the standard PPQ sized grip. The back straps are not interchangeable on it. And you can see there's no striker indicator there because this is actually a hammer fired gun. Take a look at our sight picture with that front fiber optic screaming at us. We can see that there is some adjustment here that can be made vertically with the rear sight. And coming around the right side, we've got, of course, the slide release. You might notice the markings are a little bit different on this than your standard PPQ. My understanding is it's almost the same. It's from their second factory, not the same ohm that made this guy, for example. But you still have the CIP proofing on chamber and breech face there. CIP proofing on the slide. The CIP is the European proofing. Of course, things have to make it through US proofing to even be on the market, so having that double proofing is kind of something that I like. Interesting chamber and barrel being a little bit separate there. I did notice that this chamber flag is thin enough that you can dry fire with it. If you're not familiar with 22s, you don't want to dry fire with them because the firing pin is meant to hit the rim of the cartridge. That's why it's called rim fire. And that rim of the cartridge is normally against the chamber of the barrel. So if you don't have something in there like a snap cap or this chamber flag, your striker, your firing pin is going to be hitting the chamber itself. In fact, I have some snap caps. Let's do that just out of good practice. So to, of course, appease all the folks who get upset when I drop around in the chamber, I'm going to put it in the mag. You can see there it's a dummy round. Drop it, get that mag out of there. Now let's see what this trigger's like. We have the safety dongle that functions. Come to a wall. Break. Nice and crisp. I can do this without kicking the round out. Nope, of course I can't. Keep my finger held on that trigger so that I don't lose the reset. Reset is not very tactile or audible, and it's a little bit longer than your standard Walther. But there's a reason for that, and I'll show you why when we field strip the gun and take a look inside. So before we move on to looking inside of the gun, I just want to show you this is that dummy round, and you see those marks there. That's from the striker. Those are the 2 times that I dry fired on this. So when dry firing with a 22, you need something there to protect your firing pin. In this case, it was an aluminum snap cap, but obviously this thing would wear out over time. So I'll let you guys discuss on your favorite ways to safely dry fire 22. And now let's get to that field strip. So this being a fixed barrel, as the barrel's not tilting or moving at all, like most 22s tend to be, we're going to have to take the slide off over the back of the gun. Don't freak out, it's not that difficult. Every gun I've had that does that, people tend to freak out because they're used to the more Glock style. You still have this takedown pin, the takedown levers, they're nice and big, except it snaps down. See, it locks down there, which is nice, you don't have to fight it. Bring the slide back all the way, up and forward and off the gun. We can see we have a non-captured recoil spring, which is great for 22, considering that 22 has such a variance in bullet weights. In fact, I've got 20 grain all the way through 60 grain in from Aguila to test. Some of it's not meant for semi-autos, and semi-autos can be very picky about their 22 loads. So looking at the inside here, you can see this is very different. Also, wow, that's a lightweight slide. That the slide is almost entirely hollowed out, aside from that little mechanism in there. That's because this is hammer fired. So I'll get something here to catch it, like my thumb, pull the trigger, there's your hammer. So it's a hammer fired gun, which is why the trigger is a little bit different, and of course depressing that is going to take some of the, well, it's going to require the energy of the slide, the rearward movement. So it'll be interesting to see how sensitive this gun is or is not to ammo. You can also see we've got a multi-piece in there. It looks like the barrel is pressed into this hood, which holds everything in place. I like that the hood is still shaped, though, much like the Walther setup. Here's our guide rod. See how it locks in? It's nice and lubed there. It is a plastic guide rod, helps keep weight down, because really, I mean, how serious do you need to be with a 22? So interesting gun. It is a little different than what you're used to. You can tell that we've got a threaded barrel here. That must be what that wrench is for that came in the box. To pull that off, that's going to be a tiny thread. Not anything I have a can for at the moment, but I don't have an appropriate 22 can anyways. The slide has got to be aluminum. It feels incredibly lightweight. Neat gun though for having the look and feel of the PPQ with the affordability and training value that 22 has. One of the things that I like about 22 is just how unforgiving it is. When you miss with 22, you really miss because it's a smaller hole, and so you'll see gaps between your shots instead of shots overlapping so much. It is definitely something to learn with, and a great way to train yourself out of flinching. This, I bet, would fit a standard holster made for a Q5 because it's dimensionally on the outside the same, which also makes it a great training option or something for getting youth ready. Neat gun. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. I'll get it out to the range, and like I said, the what's for dinner, we're going to have a variety of hollow point and non, and bullet weights, of course, as always, and we'll see what runs well with this gun and what doesn't. Thanks for watching.